Welcome back everyone to my Let's Play of Final Fantasy III for the Nintendo Famicom system. Last episode we had visited the village of the Ancients and we were challenged by one of the boys there to ride around the entire continent on a chocobo. So we're going to head into this chocobo forest, we're going to find a chocobo, and we're just going to run around the entire continent. So, at the center there, it said it smells like chocobo. If you have a Gishel green, you can use the Gishel green, and the fat chocobo will appear. The fat chocobo, it allows you to store items. So it's basically a second inventory screen for you. There's a village there. We can't reach that right now because it's in the outer sea, and we can't. Our boat is currently trapped in the inner sea, and we'll find out that a little later. But the little strait that leads to the outer sea from the inner sea, it's blocked by a whirlpool. So after I do this, I'm going to go get my reward from that kid. It's not as good as the reward in Final Fantasy V, because you don't have to do this little side quest in Final Fantasy V until very late in the game. So, yeah, we're not going to get a really good reward for here. But what we will do is... we will start going around the world on our feet and just picking up a bunch of monsters. So let's talk with this kid. Congrats on circling the continent on a chocobo. Here's your prize. And it's just one of those gnome breads. So, like I said, it brings up a map of the place, and which is a small little section of the map, so you can kind of see where you're going. I'm going to hop on a chocobo and head to the north, to where that one desert is, and there's a bunch of enemies around there that I'm going to want to fight. So, I mean, unfortunately it takes me a long time to find some of these enemies, so at a certain point I'm just going to kind of do like a jump cut to a time when I do end up getting those enemies. But it's not going to be a super major cut, maybe like 20 minutes or so. So here we are by this desert up here. We have a few monsters we can encounter around this area, including these guys, the Knockers. They can be encountered anywhere from basically where you turn the corner from the western side of the continent to start going to the east. So they're like a third level goblin. There's a weaker version of the goblin a little south, basically to the north of where the village of the Ancients is. But I figured I'd start as far away as possible and then walk my way back. So, yeah, if I needed to, I could, after I get all the enemies I need, I can just head to the village of the Ancients, heal up, and then, then go out and hunt some more. So these guys are, like I said, kind of like the rank 3 type goblins. So they're kind of tough, but they're not as tough as the rank 2, because the rank 2 goblins, they have some status effects. They have a spell, Stare, which can paralyze your characters. So, yeah, once again, status ailments are going to be very, very annoying in this game. So, I know those are killers in Final Fantasy 2, but they were killers in Final Fantasy 2 because in Final Fantasy 2, remember, you couldn't gain stats for your characters if you ended the battle with a permanent status ailment inflicted. This one, you'll still gain experience, but it just a lot of times it knocks you out of the battle. The paralysis effect, or some enemies will cast sleep. They tend to last almost the whole battle. They'll eventually wear off in battle, but it usually takes so long that it doesn't usually go off. So we have 2 new enemies, the Flyers and the Gorgons. So we have 1 Flyer and 2 Gorgons. So the Flyer being that, like, looks like a fly with arms in the upper left, and then the Gorgons are those ants with the big claws. Big knife claws. So, one of the good things is we got those rods there, or the staffs there for Baby Moo. We will end up getting some elemental rods, but they don't do the same thing that Baby Moo's staffs do. They don't cast the spell. What they're supposed to do is they're supposed to increase the damage of the spells associated with. So if, say, Tupelo had an ice rod, his ice spell should do more damage, but apparently they're bugged and it doesn't do that. But, oh well. Can't have everything perfect. It's not going perfect. There's all these sleep spells that we're getting put under. So now we got the stat there for the Gorgon. We switched the enemies up there. Now we don't have to look for these enemies again. Take out this one. Alright. That's a bunch of enemies down. There's still another enemy group there, though, around here that we want to grab in the northern area here. So we're going to pick it up, and then we can move on over to the head west and then south a little bit. So we got a few new enemies there that we want to pick up on the western side of the continent. Let's just keep wandering here. Of course, when we want to find enemies, the encounter rate is really, really low. But then we're going to a dungeon, it'll be really, really high, and we'll be like, ugh. Yep, once again, the game always knows how to troll you. Make things miserable for you. So, got into another battle with those knocker goblin enemies. They're pretty common around this area. You're gonna get sick of seeing them, so they seem to be the most common. In the bestiary that I found on Gamer's Guide, unlike in Final Fantasy II, that doesn't list the percentages of enemies in an area. I think those knocker enemies are probably the most common, it just seems to me. In the desert, we're going to go farming again later on. We're going to go farming later, I should say. The most common enemy seems to be those griffins that we found guarding the White Slayer's sword back in Sassoon Castle. Yep, they're now a common enemy in the desert, and they can come in groups of 4. So here's the other, last guy we want to find around this area here, the Lizard Man. Surprisingly, they have no weaknesses to ice. Final Fantasy tends to have lizard characters weak to ice. They see hibernating creatures tend to be weak to the cold. But not yet. So, thinking of the Slee Stacks from Land of the Lost. The old live action kind of, I don't want to say it's a cartoon because it wasn't a cartoon, but it was with the Saturday morning cartoon blocks. So, I have to watch that again. I have seasons 1 and 2 on DVD. I haven't watched it in a while. One of these days I'm gonna have to go through all my old DVDs, but right now I'm just looking at a bunch of stuff on Tubi TV. So that's how I've been passing time, I guess. Unfortunately, my computer seems really, really old. It's probably like 7 years old. It does what I need it to do, but I realized it was way old when I tried to do streaming on Retrothon last year. And somebody had to set me up. But yeah, I can't really watch videos while I use the capture card to capture stuff, because then the capture card sometimes messes up. So, but here's what that gnome bread does. See, it blows up the screen. Anywhere that's flashing on a dot, that's a point of interest. So you kind of see there's a bunch of point of interest down there by that cave that we can barely see. But we can't reach that cave yet. So, alright, here we have a new enemy here. Pretty common on this side. I've ran into quite a few of them in my grinding here. But looks like a wisp type monster. I don't know if that one on the top there is its head, or what kind of thing this is. Big plant monster, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe like a Hydra monster from Godzilla. Uh-oh, sounds like there's some monster thing going on in my rat cage over there. They're probably angry because they want to come out and play. I have to... I'm letting them out a little later today. They'll be out as soon as I finish this recording. But I don't want to let them out while I'm recording because then they'll bother my dog Spartacus and then I'll have all this growling and I'll have to cut and do multiple takes. So... Oh, bad breath. So I guess these are like descendants of marbles, which I guess goes back to what I said, maybe like the plant things. Marbles are those really annoying enemies that we first appeared in Final Fantasy II. And they're known for that bad breath, which is just a type of spell-type skill that usually inflicts a multitude of status ailments on characters. I really hate them in Final Fantasy IV, that's where they're really, really terrible. Poison, small, toad, silence. But there's kind of a way to kind of cheese some status ailments in Final Fantasy IV, but we'll talk about that when we get to that game. But it doesn't help us out here. It does help us out. There was Tangeweenie's nunchucks there. Some good damage. Like I said, we're going to be hunting around here for all these new enemies. More of those Belphegors. Those plant-type monsters. But once we're done farming around this area, then that's when we'll end up getting the jump cut, so... Alright, we got tarantulas and slimes. Obviously, you can tell the tarantulas are the ones in the left column, and the slimes are the ice cream, evil-looking ice cream scoops in the right column. Luckily for us, the slimes, they don't, they're not like the flan monsters in Final Fantasy 2, that they don't take damage from melee attacks. There's some monsters like that, and like some of the, I think they were the mucks in the marsh cave in Final Fantasy 1. They didn't take much damage from physicals, unless you've got the critical hit. But luckily these guys, we can take them out with our physical hits. So, because Tupelo's running kind of low on spells, and as you can see, Baby Moo, even though she has unlimited spells with the items that she has, either flame or ice, they don't really do too much damage, because that's, once again, damage will be based a little bit on the character's intelligence stat. So Tupelo would do much better with those staffs, but Tupelo couldn't, you know, equip them, because staffs go on white wizards, and rods are the weapons for black wizards. I think that goes back to the first Final Fantasy, where the white mages were based off the cleric class in Dungeons and Dragons, and in that, for some reason in that game, clerics weren't allowed to use bladed weapons. So it was like, you can't kill somebody with a sword, but you can club them to death with a mace or a stick. So, but something about maybe not shedding blood, but I mean, you bash somebody's brains in, they're gonna bleed out. Hurt somebody pretty bad, you hit them with a stick. But I think that's, like I said, where the whole thing, the white mage uses the staffs, comes from. And there goes the slime, so take care of those monsters. 2 more off our bestiary. We still have a few more that want to hunt around this area. Now, some of these monsters overlap in other areas, but there are a few that can only be encountered on the outside here in the outer continent. Some of these monsters' domains overlap with, there's some inner islands to the right, where I used the, remember when I used the gnome bread not too long ago. It blew up and they showed some islands. Those islands, some of them have these encounters on. Like one of them has the spiders and the slimes and another enemy. So if we don't encounter that other enemy, we'll just find it in the other zone. But there are some enemies that are, you know, exclusive to this area, so we want to make sure that we find them. So there's those red cap goblin enemies. They can use that glare spell, which they just did, which puts a character to sleep. So, like I said, after a few rounds, the sleep will take off, you know, will resolve itself. But I don't know if it's just because we're taking out the enemies in a few rounds. For the most time, it doesn't seem like once the character's put to sleep, they're out for the rest of the battle. Might be different in a boss battle, where you'd have multiple rounds, but these random battles, not taking too long. Speaking of not too long, a lot of these jobs we won't be using much longer. So, alright, so back there we basically got most of the enemies that I wanted to. So I basically just off-screen going down to the Village of the Ancients. I stopped at the inn. You can see I got all my spell charges back. I gained a level as well, so that's why when you select the spell, you can see that it's kind of like a fourth level of spell there. I don't have any spells to cast, though, on that level. But basically during this grind, I end up getting 2 levels, so which will definitely help out. But those levels probably wouldn't be really necessary to do what we have to do. There's only one place where leveling grinding really helps. But we'll take them. So we have 3 new enemies that we want to encounter in this area here. These Lynx enemies are kind of common around the Village of the Ancients, by the chocobo forest there. You can run into them quite frequently there, but they're also available here in the desert, and I wanted to farm the enemies that are only available in the desert. So I was like, I'll just run into the Lynx while I'm searching for those enemies. There's that demon tree again that we were told. Can't enter it. We'll have to do something else to be able to enter that tree. But it will become a dungeon later on. So I want to try to farm this enemy. Like I said, it's in the desert. I want to try to farm it as close as I can to where my ship is parked. Because after we get this enemy, we're going to hop back onto our ship, because we've pretty much done all that we could around this area. We're going to have to, our next plan of attack would be to go try to find King Argus. Something's wrong with him and his army. They're attacking that village over there, Tupelo. And then we were also told that there was the Gurgans. They were the people who gave the prophecy at the beginning of the game, in the little intro. Gurgans spoke. So, here's the last 2 enemies we wanted to run into. Hornets, the bugs in the front there, and then the Godzilla monsters are the parademons. The one thing about the parademons is you don't want to use lightning on them, because they can absorb lightning. So, don't cast lightning on them. All the other spells, though, perfectly fine to use. And of course you can hit him with your weapons as well. Now, even though, Fang has lightning elemental swords, they'll still do damage to the parademons. They just won't get the bonus damage that, say, the lightning swords would get if they're used against, say, an enemy who's weak against lightning, like all the creatures in the sea. So there's the parademons. Now their stats. You've seen the Hornets was up there long enough. As you can see, they can drop a lot of different arrows. one of the classes that we'll be getting for the next crystal will be an archer class. So we'll eventually, you know, go to that. Obviously, we're going to use that class because, like I said, we're going to be using every single class in this game. So now, if you weren't necessarily going to use every single class in the game, some of these starting classes are still pretty good, and you can almost use them all the way through the end of the game. For instance, the Black Mage and the White Mage are pretty good throughout the entire game. So you could use them the whole time. Eventually you'll get an upgrade to all of these classes. Then we'll get a better fighter, we'll get a better monk, better Black Mage, a better White Mage class. Similar to how when you were in Final Fantasy 1 you got class changed. Your fighter became a knight, your monk became a black belt, your white wizard, White Mage became a white wizard, Black Mage became a black wizard. They became like basically the same class, but they can use more items, more spells. So we're going to get upgrades to them, but we don't get the White Mage and Black Mage upgrades until really late in the game. The fighter, though, we get the black belt a little bit earlier than that, and the fighter, though, we're going to get pretty soon, so yeah, fighter's going to be obsolete shortly. But this is where we're going to end the episode here. We're going to head out to the sea again and go looking for those other places, King Augus' castle and the Gorgons. Take care, see you then. Bye!